Let me please explain the difference between the old movement and the new. Actually, the Lange 1 has a complete new gear train. It has a new balance wheel, in-house hairspring. We have now the second hand, the fourth wheel is directly driven. And here you have an explanation of the former Lange 1 with the two barrels and the new Lange 1. So you recognize that the balance wheel is a new one with poising weights and the free swung hairspring. And here you see the direct driven second hand, although here the former version it was divided with two extra gears. And we have now the two barrels, and the minute wheel is in between, so we take off the minute and the gear train, the indications from here. So yeah, it's a completely new gear train, which has of course a result, or which is the result of 20 years experience in building the former Lange 1 and 20 years of developing movements, and we found that it was about time to redesign the new movement and put all the experience we have of 20 years of watch development. Now, you may recognize that the gear train in this way makes it that the winding stem goes underneath the balance wheel, which in the beginning we were like, oh. But on the other hand, we did test, and there's absolutely no influence, and that was the best way to go, because we wanted to have the second hand directly driven. And putting the barrels on this side was no option to go in between, because the barrels, they make the thickness of the movement, so there was no space. And there was enough space over here to put the winding stem and have the gear setting and the winding system over here. And we even got enough space to put the power reserves mechanism, the gear train, which you have to take off the barrels, in here. It left enough space over here for the outsized date, and yeah, it's actually quite what I said is the experience we have, 20 years of development of movements. We learned about that, and it's an absolute secure way to have the winding stem underneath here. Although I can imagine, I understand that, what is this? It was nice, sounds bizarre, but it's no problem. No. Of course, you may think that, oh, such a long winding stem, which we actually also had in the former Lange 1, could be very instable. But on the other hand, is the most of the length of the winding stem is quite securely embedded in the main plate. So there's no extra. It's very well guided in the main plate. So very stable actually. So there's no wobbling. You felt it on the Lange 1. It's extremely stable. What we expect from ourselves, the quality. So. No, there was no extra problems or extra frictions or so. No, that was actually quite a good thing. Another point on the Lange 1 is the outside date, which is now exactly instantaneously jumping around midnight. I said around midnight because we have tolerances. It's 1 minute before, 1 minute after, because you have a gear train. Which has had its play, its shake. So, but it's jumping instantaneously, which means the system is still built on which we call the tense cross, with underneath the unit's disc. They didn't change, but the connection from the gear train until that system, there we made some changes, and we have that cam, which is during 6 to 8 hours, gently lifts up a lever, which is released for a drop around midnight, and which swings the two discs, if necessary, at midnight. So approximately 6 hours.
6 hours.
And we did it on purpose. We could have made it shorter, but then the angle to lift up that lever gets steeper, and that is more energy consuming. So for that we didn't want to do. So talking about energy and consuming, the watch has 3 days power reserve. After 3 days the movement is stopped. There's a new system compared to the former long one. The mechanism is stopped because the watch could have probably run for around 100 hours, but we cut from 80 hours. We cut the energy, so we stop the movement, and because we keep the best energy for these 3 days of power reserve. So
you mean this move?
Of course, and that's perfect. And of course, with the free-sprung hairspring, with the poising weights, it's a perfect combination. And we are of course very happy that we are able to classify, as we call that, the hairspring to the perfect weight of the balance wheel. So we can really a very fine system, a very precise system. Of the movement, and very reliable. And the idea of stopping the movement after 3 days, it's just better for the mainsprings also to stop them and not get them fully unwound. Yeah, the T0 it's around 315 degrees. 315 degrees at max, and it goes around until 260, 265 degrees. Yeah, so it's quite stable and not too much drop at the end, because then we stop the movement. I think after launching the Lange 1 in 1994, it has become an icon of the brand. I think the Lange 1 is the face of Lange & Zone, and we did not want to change the face, because it's so well known, and it is an icon product, and icon products deserve respect, and we are full of respect of our product, Lange 1. Of course, and that's the high. There was a very difficult task for a design to make the minimum of changes. The changes are, if you don't know, if you have the new Lange 1, you don't recognize the difference between the old. If you get the two of them together, you may see a slightly difference. The printing, it's a little bit optimized. What we call it the ouverture, the opening of the dial has changed 0.5 millimeter. This is nothing. The outsize of the case stayed 38.5. It's a perfect size for all over the world. It's a very classical, timeless design, and we are happy. I think it's a good way that we did that, because we didn't want to change the watch, but we gave her, or you could say, we made her fit for the next 20 years. And that was the idea.